Hello everybody, I hope you're keeping well. Today I want to tell you about some of my most hypest games for the first quarter of 2025. There's a good number of games and I will definitely not be able to get to all of them once the time goes by. I already missed a bunch of games from 2024, but they are on my list. I am very much interested in them. And if you're like me, or you like games similar to the games that I like, they should be on your list as well. And that's why we are here today. So let's just get straight into it. So right off the gate we got January 9th and for us in the West, January 10th, 2025, Freedom Wars Remastered. Now this is a game that is very near and dear to my heart because this is one of the games that kind of carried me in the years of 2015 and a little bit of 2016 when I was a major main gamer on the PlayStation Vita. And this is a hunting game. Gamatsu here talks about it as an action RPG, which, you know, I always have a problem with hunting games being portrayed as such. I think they are simply hunting games. There's a decent nuance there. Maybe there's a video about that topic, but let's not get into that right now. Basically, this is a sci-fi setting, and you're hunting these creatures over here. The story is pretty cool. The setting is the more interesting part of this game. You are a prisoner and you have a sentence of 10 million years, if I remember correctly, and you have to work it off. And you work it off by killing these strange creatures in the world. Now, the cool part here is also that you get this, I guess, assistant that is also your warden, who takes care that you do what you're supposed to be doing. Also, they help you in combat, and you can fully customize them visually. So, you can imagine the appeal there. Is it just a million years? Okay, I guess it's just a million-year sentence. That's fine. The music is very good. It's very excellent. I think I'll have some music going in the background. And yeah, this is a very vibes-based game with multiplayer, of course, hunting action, and I cannot recommend this enough. Of course, this is coming from the Vita, so you're gonna have to kind of realize that this is an outdated looking game, right? But I'm telling you, it is good fun. You have a grappling hook available, you got a good number of ranged weapons, there are some melee weapons as well, tons of customization as to how your character behaves and what the properties your damage has, how much do you want to use your thorn, which is the grappling hook. As you can see, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of customization as well as visual for your character and your assistant, and it's amazing. There's one feature that was not present in the Western version for the Vita or the original release, and I think that was like a synthesized voices for the assistant character. They didn't make the cut for the Western version, so we're kind of hoping that this time around with the remaster we will get that as well. That will be very cool. And as you can see, you can also mount the creatures. The reason why you want to do that, because if I remember correctly, it's been 8 years, okay, so might be a bit rusty on that, but you can attach yourself to specific limbs and you can destroy the limbs. You can see the left arm or the left forearm is destroyed, and now he's mounting the other arm. So that is definitely, you know, I'm a big fan of limb destruction. You can see that right there. Oh my god, it's beautiful. I am definitely interested in this remaster, and you should be as well. If you like multiplayer action and customization, interesting sci-fi setting, this is right up your alley. I got some screenshots here that I want to show. So this is the original Vita game. This is my character and my assistant. I had a really good time with this game, playing with should I say this? I guess it's fine. I was a avid Vita general thread browser on 4chan back in the day, and we had a good time playing this game together. Yeah, that was a very good time. Also, there is a decent amount of fan service, I guess you could say. If you want to, you can opt into that. Yeah, it's a nice looking game. I think it aged pretty well visually, I gotta be honest. Maybe it's just the rose-tinted glasses. But oh yeah, there's a really good amount of customization for your characters, and you can change it anytime. If I remember right, you can also change your gender and the gender of your assistant anytime. So there's just complete freeform customization. It's really cool. The game crashed here. I hope the game's gonna be more stable on the remaster, but yeah, there it is. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on here. You got two-handed swords, you got one-handed swords. There's a plenty of stuff, and the action can get pretty spicy because besides your character and your assistant, there are 3 other characters and their own assistants, so that's 8 characters. There was also PvP, which I never really got into, but yeah, there's a lot going on here. So right off the bat, beginning of the year, January 10th, worldwide, Freedom Wars Remastered. Highly recommended. Although, you know, we don't know what the state of the version of the remaster will be. I assume it's going to be better than the Vita version, hopefully. But yeah, that remains to be seen. One thing I would definitely recommend is if you want to play this on PC, and that means Steam, we have confirmation that it is a Steam version, probably best idea would be to wait for a couple days, see what the PC version looks like, and then get in there. I think the Switch version could actually be pretty decent this time around. Usually the Switch version is always the worst version of a multi-platform game, and I mean, it's gonna be the weakest version here as well. But I believe it should be possible for the Switch version to be definitely acceptable, especially the original game being a Vita game, which is even weaker than the Switch, and it was a portable console, so it's a perfect match for the Switch. So if you're a Switch gamer, I think this should be definitely very high priority on your list for the first quarter of 2025. Sorry for the mix-up there, I'll put the platforms down below, that's probably gonna work better than in the previous slide. Now, the next game, that's only 7 days later, January 17th, Dynasty Warriors Origin. Now, we have opinions about Koei Tecmo's Musou series, especially after Dynasty Warriors 9, but this game looks quite promising, I would say. I'll let the trailer play in the background. I myself am not a huge fan of the mainline Musou games, but I'm definitely a big fan of all the spin-offs. The spin-offs somehow always have more interesting and varied systems and mechanics going on in them, and also they are very strong in fan service department. Not in the erotic fan service, but the fan service as like the IP fan service. If you like Dragon Quest Heroes is amazing. The music arrangements are great, the characters look amazing, it's fun to control. Same thing goes with Persona 5 Strikers, you know, and all that kind of stuff. Now, this game looks like it's quite a bit different from the mainline Dynasty Warriors games, so I am very much interested, especially, you know, after playing a lot of Wolong, which I will play more of later. It seems like the graphics are stepped up a little bit, you know. Koei Tecmo has very incremental graphical step-ups, but it looks pretty nice, I think, especially given the scope. And I believe it should run decently okay, you know. Koei Tecmo games, especially Omega Force, are not exactly known for smooth performance, but again, given the scale and the graphics, I think it should be pretty much doable. This is not gonna be a Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity or whatever it's called situation. I'm sure it's gonna be better than that, okay? That's not a high bar, but still. Next up, on the same date, January 17th, we have Tales of Graces F Remastered for PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, basically everything. Now, this is a remaster I gave up hope for. I was not expecting this to see ever to happen, but I am very much pleased that it seems like it's gonna happen. Tales of Graces F has always been, for my money, the best Tales of fighting system or battle system in the entire franchise. I really don't like the linear battle system of like Vesperia and Symphonia and games and Abyss and games like that. I always preferred what Graces is doing, and by extension, Zestiria, Berseria, and Arise. Those are really just something else. I love these games. And originally, the game came out on the PS3, as well as, I think, Xbox, I'm not sure exactly, but definitely PS3. Also, I think it's a Wii game. Oh my god. Anyway, originally it came out only with English voice acting. Now, I am really unhappy about that, because I am a self-respecting weeb, as you would very well know, and I always prefer to have Japanese voice acting going on. However, in this game's case, it was somewhat acceptable because this guy over here, Malik, He's voiced in English by Jamieson Price, and that guy alone made it completely bearable to play through the entire game. And I was glad I did, because the game is very fun. It's very fun and it's very, very good. The combat is definitely one of the best in the entire franchise. Easily, by far, and it's not close. That was until Zestiria, Berseria, and Arise came out, okay? Those systems are pretty damn good too. And also the characters look way cooler to me. That is definitely one of the drawbacks of the older Tales games. At least for, if you ask me. I'm very excited about this remaster. I hope it's good. I hope it's 60 FPS, unlike that Symphonia thing, because, I mean, this trailer is 30, so, you know, you never know until it actually comes out. So that's gonna be interesting to see. This definitely looks quite a bit gnarlier than I remember. I remember the game looking much nicer than this, but, you know, it's been more than 10 years, I think, so time does its own thing, especially to 3D games, doesn't it? Anyway, if you're a Tales fan, or if you're not a Tales fan, I think this is still worth a look. The story itself, I don't think is all that amazing, but there are some nice character development moments, and the main character is using the Yaijutsu quick draw style of fighting, so that's always fun, as you can see from the art. So yeah, this is highly recommended by me, your good friendly weeb, Yaro, also known as Lewd, I suppose. Now this one is a bit of a departure from our usual weeb Japanese and other related Asian countries developers. This is a Czech-developed video game, which is very near and dear to my heart, because I'm a Czech myself, as you can very clearly tell by my accent right now. Bohor Studios. Now this is a game that I have not played, KCD1, which is definitely that is a cardinal sin, given my Moravian heritage and being a citizen of Czech Republic. But I have it installed on my computer, okay? I will get to it. Before this game is out, I will play Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 100%. I'm very much looking forward to it. Now, this is definitely a vibe for me, because this looks like exactly like any place I have basically been to in my past how many years I live here. And to prove it, I have a picture of my own city where I live right now. Look at this. Isn't this beautiful? Isn't this nice? This is pretty much exactly what I would expect from KCD2 as well. Yeah. If you're interested in European setting, European medieval setting, this is definitely your best bet. I wonder what the Czech voice acting is gonna look like, because I remember the first game, they have some pretty prolific Czech actors in there, I think, right? Could be pretty cool. Probably worth a shot for me. Yeah, these fields and the forests, man, this is such Bohemia. I would prefer a Moravian game, but you know, maybe one day. And from the trailer, it seemed like they have a pretty strong emphasis on the narrative and presentation this time around. Much more so than the first game. It looks a lot more cinematic. And the voice performances and the motion capture also looks like they are really serious about delivering a gripping story in this period. It looks absolutely amazing, and I am also looking forward to it because this time I am ready for it when it comes to my computer. My PC is pretty okay, so it could really flex its muscle with this game, I feel like. It's kinda ironic when you think about it though. You have a very strong PC of a modern day to simulate a bygone era. It's kinda poetic, isn't it? Anyway, highly recommended to check it out. If you haven't played the first game, check out the first game too. It'll prepare you, because this is a continuation of the story from the first game. You are following the same protagonist. In English, he's called Henry, that is a nice, noble name. He's not a noble, but it sounds kind of noble, right? And if you're interested, the Czech equivalent of Henry is Jindřich. Now that's funny, because you have probably absolutely no idea what that one sound is. R. The R sound is very unique to Czech and Polish languages. As far as I know, There is no other language, to my knowledge, that possesses this sound, r, Jindřich. It's a point of many jokes when it comes to Czech and Slovaks, specifically because Slovakians, they can't pronounce that, and it's pretty funny. Anyway, let's get to the next one, okay? This is an interesting one, I have to say, because it's Obsidian Entertainment developed first-person RPG, I suppose similar to Fallout, the modern-day Fallouts and Elder Scrolls, and I guess Starfield if you really want to be like, thorough examples, set in the world of Eora from originally the Pillars of Eternity, which are top-down RPGs, which are successors to things like Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale, the original Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. I feel like I have to specify this. Anyway, I am quite excited for this because the setting of Eora is super cool and interesting and actually colorful as well and varied. The Zaurip is like your basic goblin type enemy. And it's very creative, there's a lot of cool sights to see, and being able to navigate the world in first person, that is just super exciting to me. I love Pillars of Eternity, especially Deadfire. Normally I don't like games that have ships in them and like naval combat, but in terms of Deadfire, I had a great time. Visiting all the islands, exploring them, doing all the side quests, and just exploring every nook and cranny was super satisfying, and I cannot wait to see this game in first-person action RPG genre. Now, this trailer, I remember seeing this for the first time. I was pretty excited because also this trailer reminded me of one other game that I really like that not many people talk about because I think it kinda was a little too ahead of its time, and also the PC version is kinda bad for modern PCs, so it's kind of a pain in the ass to play today, and that is Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. What's cool about that game is that it is a first-person action game. It has some light RPG elements to it, but it's definitely more of an action game, and the coolest part about that game was physics simulation. You could kick enemies into spikes and into all kinds of things, and you could also create ice puddles, like on the ground, and enemies would slip on them. There was a lot of interactivity, a lot of dynamic elements with the physics, and this game, it really... Also, there was a lot of first-person animations for like casting, and everything I'm seeing in Avowed really just reminds me of way less of Skyrim and much more of Dark Messiah. And that to me is exciting. So I'm really curious to see how's that gonna go. Here we have some psionics. There's a class in Pillars of Eternity, the Cypher, who uses like mental abilities, and seems like it's gonna be represented in this game too. I am really interested to see how the classes and how the elements from the original CRPG are going to be translated into this first-person action RPG. Because I feel like it could be really, really, really good. Now this is more like it, right? We are back to weeb shit. Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Now there is a... It says February 28th here, but I think the date was moved up to February 21st. That seems to be the actual date, so take a look at the chat box over there, down there. That should be the date. Anyway, this game is absolutely out of left field for me. I was not really sure what to expect next after Yakuza, was it 8? It's also kinda sending me in for a loop because it was always Yakuza and now they're calling it Like a Dragon when it was always Like a Dragon, but they always called it Yakuza in the West, and it's just now confusing for somebody who knows a little bit about the series. It's becoming more confusing with this name change. But yeah, anyway, this I guess this technically should be Yakuza 9, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, this is a very cool. I'm kinda glad that we don't have Ichiban Kasuga again, although I really love him very much. Having Goro Majima as the main character is certainly a choice that they have made, and I feel like it's been a while since we last had that. And he wasn't the only main character in Yakuza 0 either. So this time, it seems like he should be the actual main character the whole time, and they could not have picked a crazier idea. I mean, okay, that is probably underselling RGG Studios. They probably could have picked something crazier. We've had a zombie horror game with Yakuza and all that, so... yeah, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is definitely a very cool idea that is also kind of believable to be a thing. Because, you know, pirates are a real thing, as far as I know, on the seas, in the modern day. It just looks a little bit different than Jack Sparrow in the Caribbean. Although, in this game's case, I think we are gonna get a little bit of Jack Sparrow here and there, given the key art. Let me see if there's any action here. I have not checked any trailers because I hate trailers. I don't want to spoil myself before playing the game, especially if I want to play the game. So yeah, I still have to play Yakuza Infinite Wealth, so this is probably gonna stay on my list for a long time before I finally get to it. But make no mistake, I will for sure play this at some point. Even though I'm not a big fan of naval battles and ships, like I said just a minute ago, I played East 10 and I had a good time. I had a good time with Deadfire, so I'm sure I'll have a good time with this as well. Now this here, this is a big one. Possibly the biggest one of the year. At least for a lot of people. Myself probably not included. You know, there might be a few more things this year in 2025 that can come out and be more interesting to me personally, but this is definitely at least top 3 contenders for Game of the Year, and everybody knows that. The only thing that could get in the way of this would be performance. People were not happy with performance of the betas, and neither should they, because we expect a lot from Capcom and Monster Hunter. Now, the reason why the performance was so poor on everything, including PC, I believe, is that no amount of GPU horsepower is going to save you. Frame generation will carry you quite a bit and quite far, but it's not enough. And the reason for that is that this game is quite ambitious when it comes to simulation, and you can see that from the weather effects, you can see that from the environment and how it moves, the simulation of the water. There is a lot of physics, and I'm happy to see this because for a long time, games have abandoned simulation of physics on a large scale. Even on a small scale, we don't really get to see this all that often. The NVIDIA PhysX feature was very short-lived, and the few games that it is in, it's just so cool. For example, Borderlands 2 or Batman Arkham Origins with the snow and the fog and smoke, it looks excellent. So I'm happy to see a big company making a game that is very focused on physics simulation. That is also why the graphics step up is quite... it's not really that big, or at least not as noticeable. There is a huge change in terms of lighting compared to Monster Hunter World, but overall the art and everything, it looks quite similar and very comparable, especially if you don't look very hard, or if you don't know what to look for exactly. The highlight here is definitely the physics and the weather, so I'm quite excited for this. It's really nice to see that in the first quarter of 2025 we have 2 hunting games. One is a remaster of an old classic, and the other is a brand new one that is just extremely ambitious. Let's hope it turns out well, they can iron out the performance, make it presentable and fun, and after this game is out, God only knows how much will they improve and update the game in title updates as Monster Hunter usually does. How many monsters, what kind of monsters will they add? The sky is the limit. And hopefully we'll be there to see it. This one is a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster, Gate, Rune and Dunan Unification Wars. Now this is a remaster everybody has been waiting for a long time, because if I remember right, this was announced like 5 years ago, maybe even longer than that. I also remember Gio, who was our like a personal hero at Vita General, talking about old games and bringing them back for PlayStation specifically. But this is thankfully not a PlayStation specific thing. As you can see, this comes out on pretty much every platform imaginable these days, and it's coming out on March 6th. So this is definitely something that I'm also very glad to see. The resurgence of old pixel art, top-down JRPGs, and with improved... Well, okay, I don't want to say improved because I'm sure there's going to be some purist who says that this is not improved, this is indeed butchered. So let's just say upscaled assets for modern displays and platforms. I think the pixel art is definitely... This is probably the best way you could preserve pixel art for high-definition displays. Because originally these games were made for CRTs, right? So the pixel art is going to be designed for a CRT, which CRT displays stuff differently than a flat panel. So the sprites will look a little bit scuffed no matter what you do with them. No matter how well you preserve them, they will always look a little bit off, especially from your memory. Human memory is a faulty and miserable thing, so you can't even really count on it, it's unreliable. But yeah, it does look different, and it does look worse on a flat panel, strictly from a technical standpoint. At the same time, I think it seems like they did a good job. It looks very nice, especially with the lighting and the backgrounds. This looks much more presentable than the sharp, eye-cutting pixels of the days before when you scale them up. So this is very, very good looking. And I never played Suikoden 1 and 2, and it's kind of a... I guess you could say it's a little bit of a precursor to like Mass Effect and Dragon Age, specifically Origins and 2 and Inquisition specifically, okay? Because you had a continuation between those games in terms of what decisions you made, and some stuff carried over and it informed some side quests and some other plot developments in the subsequent games, which is very cool to have especially in an RPG, right? Decisions that matter in a game, in a later game, that is very, very impressive. Originally, this came out on PS1, if I remember correctly. I am also a huge fan of large, high-definition portraits for characters. This looks excellent. Man, I still have to play Tactics Ogre Rebirth. Or Reborn. Damn it. It's a lot of games to play, man. It's a lot of games to play. And Suikoden 1 and 2 is just a few more of them, I guess. A lot of people say that remasters and remakes are boring and stupid and unnecessary. I say that's nonsense, especially if it's a remaster of a game that I also lost hope for. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition announced for Switch. It's out on March 20th, 2025. Now, my biggest hope and hope for this game is that it will come out after the Switch successor, which is supposed to be backwards compatible, meaning we could get Xenoblade X running at 60 FPS, possibly, if they decide to really remaster the game and not just port it to the Switch. I'm not really hopeful, I am hopeful, but I'm not holding my breath for that to be the case, alright? Because that sounds a little too good for Nintendo to do. We all know that Nintendo isn't exactly known for making things that are customer friendly or anything like that, and that is just that's the biggest downside of this announcement for me, because I can't help but be skeptical, despite being hugely excited for this, because this is the only Xenoblade game I never played, and it always looked the most interesting from all of them. Now, the negative thing also is that it is based on the adjusted, let's say, modernized version of the Western release, which means there is content missing and there are some changes that some may call censorship. I kinda don't wanna call those things censorship anymore, because I don't think it's exactly that. I think it's just modernization, which I kind of feel like is even worse than censorship. Also, we could argue it's pretty much the same thing, but it's just semantics at this point. I'm just gonna call it modernization. It's also a bad thing, don't get me wrong, it is also a bad thing, but I don't think it's on the level of a censorship. I think that's just a little too heavy of a word for a freaking video game outfit, okay? Maybe they're just me. Either way, one other thing I don't think is confirmed, and I hope is the case, that the definitive version will have dual audio. Because I do not want to listen to the English voice acting, okay? I am not interested in English voice acting of a Japanese game. It's always, 99.9% of the time, it's trash, and it makes me enjoy the game less. So I'm hoping that the global release of definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles X will have Japanese voice acting available. Because every other Xenoblade game does have it. So it would make sense to be consistent and do it for this game as well, okay? That's all I'm saying. This here is positively apocalyptic release schedule, just like it was this year, with Rise of the Ronin and Dragon's Dogma 2 coming out on the same day. That was unfair, okay? But it ended up working in my favor, so that's fine. In this year's case, in the case of 2025, March 21st, like one day after Xenoblade X, we have Atelier Ryza, The Alchemist of Memories and the Envisioned Land. And this is definitely not on the level of Xenoblade Chronicles X, sure, for a lot of people, but for me, it easily is. I'm a huge fan of Atelier games, I'm a huge fan of Gust as a developer, I'm a huge fan of Koei Tecmo as a publisher, and this is no different. With this article, we have some new tidbits about this game as well. We have new key art, which is very nice, as usual. The art direction of Gust is always on point. And we have some details regarding the main villains. And I could not be more excited, because from the first trailer I identified Takehito Koyasu, who is my favorite Japanese male seiyuu, or voice actor, out there, probably. You may know him as Dio Brando from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, or if you're a Feinschmecker like me, you may know him as a Lizard Valeth from Valkyrie Profile Silmaria. Very, very interesting character, that one. And many others. Also, we have Shinichiro Miki, who is Blade in Honkai Star Rail, and probably some other roles that I can't think off the top of my head. But yeah, that's that. We got Yoko Hikasa, who is also a very prolific Japanese voice actor, or voice actress, and I'm very glad to see her being on the cast. And last but not least, we have Takaya Kuroda, who you may know as Kiryu Kazuma from Yakuza, and that is definitely what I was not expecting. I remember that he even voiced Oda Nobunaga as an antagonist in a trashy, fanservice-y action game, Samurai Maiden, which I was really not expecting to see him in a game like that, but, you know, why not, I guess. Money doesn't stink, right? And yeah, that's about it. Let's take a bit of a gameplay. Atelier games I'm a big fan of because they're pretty chill vibes, they're really nice to look at, you know, and you're gathering materials, you're crafting bombs and other items, and armor and weapons and all that. You got some cool characters in your party, you'll get to know them. It's more of a visual novel in that sense usually. The crafting system is pretty well presented, and it's quite complex, especially at the end game. And usually your gear is very much dependent on your understanding of the system and what kind of materials you have at your disposal. So you're always on the lookout for better materials with better traits and higher quality, and it's just the progression is just so pleasant and cool. And I'm really happy to see in this game specifically that the main character seems to be much more mature and old compared to the older output from Atelier series. You know, Ryza was also kind of a exception, And it seems like she's been successful, and that's why they're keeping up the pace with the, I guess, the age of the main character. I'm really excited for this one. I don't want to see the rest of the trailer. If you want to see the rest of the trailer, you can check it out for yourself. I want to play the game. I don't want to see things before I play the game, because I want to discover the game as I play it and see everything that the game has to offer. I know already it's gonna be good. I already know I'm gonna have a good time, and now it's just up to me to discover it when I get there. And that's about it. I think I covered all the games I wanted. These games are the most interesting to me, and if you have some other games that you are interested in and I didn't list, I'm interested to see what those are, because I'm pretty sure I didn't miss anything like major. But yeah, that's gonna depend on taste as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, like the video. If you didn't, well, you can do whatever you want. Leave it in the comments which game interests you the most, and if I showed you something that you weren't aware of, maybe. And I'll catch you next time with the next video. Peace.